Welcome to Lesson 1, Basic Circuits. In this lesson, we're going to cover kind of the essentials of what goes into a basic circuit, which involves various components. We're going to conclude the video by exploring how to create a basic circuit using a piece of software online called Tinkercad. So what is a basic circuit? So a basic circuit is something that includes a power source to kind of drive some other component, a load. In this process, you also need to somehow connect the power source to that load. Again, I might, use some, you know, more scientific terms, but if you really think of it, you look at the picture. You got a battery to turn on the light, and you connect the wires to kind of connect the battery to the light. Now, the other thing that's not a requirement for a basic circuit is that there's typically something in the circuit to kind of control the flow of the electricity. Again, electricity has to flow. So if you kind of look right here, there's actually a gap between this little kind of hammer and the bottom part. When you push this down, you complete the circuit, you close the circuit, allowing the electricity to flow from the battery to the light bulb and on back. When it's not pushed down, then the circuit is considered open and the electricity won't flow. Again, there's many different devices you can use to kind of provide that control feature for electricity. But I want you to think about every time you click on an on button on any device, essentially that's what you're doing. You're enabling the power source to power whatever component it is. And again, in this example, I'm using a bulb, a speaker, possibly a motor, but again, everything that has to be turned on and that gets plugged into the wall is essentially a circuit. All right, so let's explore this a little bit more by using an online platform called Tinkercad. And you can easily log in with Tinkercad with like a Google account, which is what I'm going to do. And there's various things you can do here. So I've already kind of started some basic circuitry, but we're going to do one from scratch. So you can actually do 3D design if you're interested. That's hence the name Tinkercad. That was its original purpose, but since then they've added other things. So we're going to click on circuits. And as we saw from our overview on the PowerPoint slideshow, the first thing we need is a power source. So we got a couple power sources here. So let's do a AA battery, a very common thing that we have around the house. And just kind of show you a little bit of the platform, you could change the type of battery. So let's go AAA. And then what we need is we need something to kind of be our load. So I'm going to take an LED, a simple light. Now, if you recall from the overview, we now need a medium to carry that electricity. So let's kind of complete the circuit by connecting the negative side to the smaller lead of the LED, and then connect this side down to the positive. We're going to click on Run Simulation, and you can barely see it. I'm going to stop it, start up here. It does turn on. So obviously you can see here, we may need some more power. So I'm going to click on the battery again, and let's add another battery. And boom, we got a nice little explosion there. So what's happening here is that we're sending too much power to our LED. All right, so what can we do to kind of lower that a little bit? So I'm going to stop the simulation. So something else that's part of basic circuitry is the idea that, actually I'm going to put it on this side, that we can introduce a resistor. And what a resistor does is that, as the name implies, it offers some resistance to the current. So that way there's less current flowing through here. Now let's see, let's measure this in ohms, and let's do 200. And there we go. So notice now with the resistor, our light bulb is turning on, it's not exploding, and life is good. So here's our basic circuit. The next thing we can do is introduce this concept of, we want to have something in between to kind of, allow the person to control when the light turns on. So we're going to use a simple push button. And let me see, I think I can rotate this way. So now we're going to break the circuit, and we're going to introduce the button to our circuit. Let's just make it nice and pretty. Okay, so let's run the simulation. And notice the LED doesn't turn on. The LED is not turning on because right now I have to push the button to turn the light on. Again, when I push the button, it completes the circuit. All right, so let's introduce another component just to kind of show you how easy this can be. Now, hopefully I get this one correct. So let's turn this one on its side too. Let's pull the button out. So I think we may have to actually delete the wires to disconnect the button. And let's introduce the slide switch. So I'm going to introduce it to the first lead, and then this is the second lead. I think that should be the right wiring. And similar idea here. So right now you see that because the switch is in this position all the way down, the light's turned on. If I click on the switch and put it in the top position, the light turns off. So these are components that are pretty much in one of two states. Either they're on or off. But there are some other ways to control the flow of electricity, other types of components. And let me pick one of those out. Where's the photoresistor? Right here. Now, you may have seen this in some children's toy where if you lift something up, light hits the particular sensor and then a sound plays. So that is essentially the idea behind these types of components, is that it's not an on-off state. It's more of a, how much of the electricity is being offered. So at this point, I believe let me leave the resistor in there. I think we can actually take this out and just let this be the resistance. As you can see, it's called a photoresistor. So let's play it out. And at this point, let's raise it. And yeah, I think, and let's lower this resistance down a little bit so it's not competing too much with the other resistance. Let's start again. So notice now that we're kind of like in the completely dark area, again, that's what this little slide switch does. It helps to simulate a light source to the photoresistor. So right now with no light, it looks like it might be dim or even off. As I increase the amount of light being provided to the photoresistor, notice that the light increased. Again, we could probably get the light to increase more by simply reducing this. And let's try that again. And there we go. Honestly, we could probably just get rid of it. Like I said, this is a resistance. That is actually how this particular component works. It's able to vary the resistance, kind of doing the same job here, but based on some outside stimulus, such as sunlight. You can do similar things with like sound sensors, temperature sensors, and so on. The last example I want to kind of go over with you is the idea of a motor, because the motors can be very fun. So let's just do a simple motor here. Let's connect our 9-volt battery. Just kind of rotate this. And let's do the same thing we did with the LED. Let's just power it. So you can see here that the motor is rotating, and we can control that. We can control that pretty much in the same way we did the LED. So let me introduce the button here. Let me connect the button to one lead, the other one to the other lead, run the simulation, and you can see here that the motor is not turning. The motor is not going to turn until I press the button. Because once I press the button, it allows the electricity to flow from the battery to the motor. And this is essentially basic circuitry. All right, so let's go back to our presentation and let's review what we've done. So in this lesson, we discussed that a basic circuit involves essentially three components: a power source, such as a battery, a medium, such as wire, and then finally a load. Something that's going to receive that power and do something, such as possibly a light bulb, a battery. But I also explained on a higher level, everything that you have in your house that you press an on button 2 has that same concept of a circuit. That power is flowing through its components to kind of, turn on the monitor, turn on the speakers, turn on your router, whatever it is. So hopefully you're excited about playing around with circuits and enjoy.